It has been a crazy January across not just Indiana, but much of the U.S. Things are looking a lot quieter for the last week of the month. I'm 13 News meteorologist Matt Standridge. We want to give you an overall kind of sense of what you can expect for the final days of January. Almost done with month one of 2025. And we'll talk a little bit about what we think may bring itself around for February. We're going to start with some of the weather maps for the last weekend of January because we don't think there are going to be a lot of changes day after day from what we're going to show you for the final days of January. We go up to the Friday. Friday is the last day of the month, and starting next weekend, this coming weekend, we've got February starting. But let's talk about a couple things. When you're looking at the map, hard not to notice a little bit of blue on there. Some of the snow showers. We've got some snow showers across the Great Lakes and some snow showers across the Rockies too. We think the weather pattern overall is going to hold this week in this sort of fashion. However, just a couple nuances. Let's start with the Great Lakes. We've got some scattered snow showers. I think many days we're going to have some scattered snow showers, but especially for more of the northern and the eastern lakes. We're going to be watching these little clipper systems come on through. Now we've got one to start this last week of January, but I don't think the rest throughout the week will be nearly as long extending. Maybe a quick downgrade for Sunday, but then I think for the rest of this coming week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we'll have these little ones that pass on through. Some of them will be able to kind of pass over Indiana with maybe a stray flurry, possibly some windy weather on the way, but the majority of snowy action is going to stay off to the north. You've really got to get into Michigan or maybe some of those belts there for parts of Pennsylvania and New York to get heavier snow. But we'll be watching some of these clippers. To the southeast, high pressure should mainly hold. There could be a day or two with a couple light showers, but I think overall high pressure is going to hold as the melting continues there along the Gulf Coast. Hasn't this January been crazy? Not just here, but we had that historic snow across the south, especially right along the Gulf Coast and all the way through Savannah, Georgia and into the Carolinas. And then on the flip side, we've had a lot of dry weather continue there for Southern California. The wildfires are something that we are still working on and trying to fight, but there is some good news with a couple caveats. We've got this storm system that's sitting in the Rockies, but here's the thing. The jet stream's not going to be very strong for the last week of January over the Rockies, and I think this is going to kind of sit here for a while. So some scattered showers of snow for the upper elevations. But if you look closely, we do have a little bit more rain trying to set up in parts of California. And I do think this little front should be able to kick just a little bit farther south. And that's going to enhance some scattered rain showers for parts of Southern California some of these days. But then we got to watch out for mudslides because it's been so dry. You get these burn scars, you get a little water on there, then you get mudslides. But you'd probably rather have a little bit of rain than just staying dry. So something that we'll have to watch, but there will be some more rain chances out towards the west. But in Indiana, we think things are going to be fairly on the drier side because any of the big fronts, these polar fronts that we would track, are probably going to stay up to the north. You know, we don't even have radar data really that easily accessible once you get just north of the Canadian border, so you don't see a lot going on. But we're going to have these stronger fronts off towards the north. The next time anything really big comes for the Midwest is probably going to be this coming weekend for the first weekend of February. But man, it has been a cold January. We had two big stretches of temperatures where they fell below freezing and they stayed below freezing for several days. Just under 7 days was the most recent one, but on Saturday, we were able to finally get above freezing. It was 162 hours that we stayed below freezing for Indianapolis. A little bit farther to the north, that was even a higher number. A little bit farther to the south, closer to about 150 something, just depending on where you live. But a good stretch of cold air. This comes out to right at 6.75 days. So just over 6 days below freezing weather, but we had a longer stretch earlier in the month. The first to second week of the month, we had 8 days we were below freezing for Indianapolis. Now, I would say the second stretch probably had a lot colder air just consistently at night. Now, technically maybe not the coldest night overall, but we had a lot of really brutally cold nights over and over again. But January's been cold. You know, we are on track to have the coldest January since 2014. Now we'll have to watch these final days because they are looking warmer as we push into the end of the month. So we'll have to kind of see where we end up. But right now we're still on track for possibly being the coldest since 2014 for January overall, but definitely not the coldest January we've ever had. We've had some doozies in the 1900s. All right, let's talk about the jet stream because that's going to help carry where these storm systems go. Where you see a lot of these winds get together and kind of move faster, that's where we've got this polar jet. We also have a little bit of a subtropical jet. That helps to enhance moisture. But if you don't have any fronts to do anything, you're not going to be able to do anything with that moisture. The polar jet's more of the active one, the one that really can create some big snowstorms. And this jet was sitting over the Gulf Coast earlier last week, and so that's why we had all that snow. It's really retreated to the north. Indiana's still on the edge. And here's the other thing you got to watch for the jet stream. It carries storm systems. And so that's one reason why we're going to be watching these little clippers form in Canada, and they're just going to ride that wind. But we think they're probably going to stay more towards the center of that jet stream, so kind of coming right through here where my hand is, more for the northern Lake Superior, right into Huron, and then towards Ontario. Lake Michigan, Lake Erie will get some of the snow showers, but generally farther to the north. And we think as we play this out, you know, there'll be kind of loops and gyrations with this cold air pocket up to the north, but for the most part, it's staying north. Subtropical jet to our south. Indiana's kind of in this in-between zone where we don't get a lot of activity. And as we push even into Wednesday of this coming week, you know, we're talking about this colder air staying off to the north and Indiana staying on the edge. But I think since we're so far just on the edge, we're going to get warmer day by day. So a couple things or a few things that we're tracking. Overall, quieter weather for the rest of January, and we're looking warmer too, not just in the afternoons, but at night as well. I'll show you some of these temperatures. And then there are two things that we have to watch out for. As these clipper systems pass on by, especially for central and northern Indiana, we're going to get some wind a couple of these days. Sometimes out of the southwest, sometimes out of the northwest. But Monday and Tuesday look to be particularly windy, where we could get gusts near 40 miles per hour. I'll show you the maps in a moment. And then plus, as these little clippers are trying to pass on through, there will be some very small snow chances. And most of them are outside of Indianapolis. Most of them are north of Indy. We're talking about northern Indiana, parts of northeastern Indiana, parts of eastern Indiana too. But really got to get north and east of Indy to get some of these flurry chances. The best chances look to be Tuesday morning and Wednesday. I'll show you the maps here in a moment too. But let's start with some of the warmer air. These are lows. These are not afternoon highs. But this is what our weeks have looked like recently, where we've been below freezing in the afternoons. But these are our overnight lows. What you really get in the morning. The morning is the coldest time of the day. And you're looking at starting, you know, sometimes chilly, of course, 20s and teens, but gradually we are warming up. There'll be some mornings that we're next to or even above freezing, I think, to start some of these mornings. So we're going to expect a lot of snow melt. And here's something kind of fun. In meteorology school, one thing we learn about is thermodynamics. And we're not going to go too deep in here. But I want to let you know, for snow melt, sometimes really a southwest wind, a warmer wind, is the most effective way to melt snow. Not just warmer temperatures, but really a wind. You get to tap into some of the kinetic energy to help warm up and melt a lot of the snow. And I think that's going to be a big case on Monday. Southwest wind, and it's going to be hustling. We're talking about up to about 40 mile per hour gusts or so, maybe 42, 43, and this light blue zone, that includes most of the state. Farther south, southern Indiana, somewhere in the 30 mile per hour range for some of these gusts, just a little bit weaker. But northeast Indiana, we're going to have some gusts approaching 50 miles per hour right there on the edge. We'll be in the 40s for sure, but there's this chance that parts of northeastern Indiana have some gusts up to 50 miles per hour. That's windy. Mainly just a quick warm front's going to be passing on through. And so that's going to help bring us warmer air too. That's one of the reasons why we're going to start warming things up. But as it comes on through, we'll be really warm, but then I think we'll start switching directions for a quick day or two. And that may bring some flurries off the lake. You know, it's still cold enough for snow showers, but we're definitely getting closer to the freezing mark than being closer to zero. But there will be some chances for flurries in parts of northeastern Indiana. Should not be a big accumulation for us at all. Then we talk about Wednesday. We've got another quick clipper system coming in. That's going to bring some northwest winds gusting up to about 40 miles per hour. So maybe just slightly less than that first round. But Wednesday also looks windy for much of northern and central Indiana. And with those northwest winds, there's a bit better chance for some flurries. I think there could be a stray snowflake or two in the air getting close to Indianapolis, but there shouldn't be much accumulation. There shouldn't just be enough snowflakes in the air at all to really form anything. But once you get north of Marion, north of Peru, you get into Warsaw, you get into Fort Wayne, up to Angola, even west of South Bend and Elkhart, there could be some minor accumulations, maybe a dusting, farther away from the lake, but for extreme northern Indiana, there could be a quick half dusting as that quick front passes on through. But that's very temporary as well. We think southwest winds will come back. When we ever get a little bit of front, notice this small dip. So for the last weekend of January, there will be some coolish air, but not bad. I think we're going to get to the 40s this week. Couple flurries late Monday night into Tuesday morning. We're talking about the wind too. These are sustained winds. I think gusts will be up to about 40 something. Maybe a quick flurry Tuesday morning north of Indy. Another flurry middle of the day on Wednesday, generally northeast of Indy. And then there may be a tiny cool down Thursday, but then I do think as we wrap up the final days, this is the last day of January, first day of February, got the Royal Rumble here in Indianapolis. That's going to be fun. But we're expecting a lot of rain. Because we're on the warmer side, systems that are able to finally develop after a pretty quiet week overall, not a lot going on. Yes, we have to put the flurry chances, but most of us are going to be okay. Next big chance for anything will probably be Saturday, February 1st. Got a Pacers home game, got the Royal Rumble, and we could be talking about some heavy rain coming on through. I don't think we're warm enough for severe weather, but we shouldn't be talking too much about wintry weather. Right now, it does look to be on the warmer side. Make sure you stay with the 13 News Weather team. As we track this one, this is our next one to watch. Just to make sure it stays on the warmer side. We'll let you know if that kind of changes and if we can get a little bit colder air in, and that could kind of change a few things. But right now, just looks like rain. We'll see how January kind of wraps up, cold air ranking-wise, but could be the coldest month since, coldest January since 2014, but at least we're ending on a warmer note.